The morning sun rose over Haven's Edge like any other day. The golden light spread across the green fields where wheat and corn grew tall. Children played in the yards while their parents worked. Dogs barked at flying insects. It was peaceful and quiet. Jake Morrison stood on his front porch drinking coffee. He was the head of Colonial Security, but his job was mostly helping lost hikers and breaking up bar fights. Haven's Edge was a farming colony. The most dangerous thing that happened was when Old Pete's cattle got loose. Jake watched his neighbor Lisa Bennett loading her medical supplies into her truck. She was the colony's doctor and made house calls to farms outside town. She waved at him and smiled. "Another quiet day in paradise," she called out. Jake laughed. "Don't jinx it." But even as he spoke, something felt wrong. The birds had stopped singing. His dog Rex was whining and hiding under the porch. Jake looked up at the clear blue sky and saw nothing. Then the sky exploded. Massive ships appeared out of nowhere. They were dark and angular, covered in spikes and weapons. The ships were bigger than city blocks. Their shadows fell across the colony like death itself. Jake dropped his coffee mug. It shattered on the wooden porch. He ran inside and grabbed his radio. "This is Morrison to all units. We have unknown ships in our airspace. This is not a drill." The radio crackled with confused voices. Security officers across the colony were seeing the same thing. Fear was in their voices. The alien ships began to fire. Beams of bright purple energy lanced down from the sky. Where they hit, buildings exploded into flame. The school where children were starting their day vanished in a flash of light. The hospital where sick people lay in beds was turned to smoking rubble. Jake ran outside. The world had gone mad. People were screaming and running in all directions. Cars crashed into each other as drivers tried to escape. A mother carried her crying baby while her house burned behind her. "Everyone to the emergency shelters," Jake shouted into his radio. But he knew it was too late. The colony's emergency plan was for natural disasters, not this. Lisa Bennett was loading wounded people into her truck when the ground next to her exploded. The blast threw her against a wall. Blood ran down her face, but she kept working. She had to save who she could. "Help me," she called to Jake. Together they lifted a burned man into the truck. His skin was black and peeling. He was barely breathing. "Who are they?" Lisa asked. "What do they want?" Jake had no answer. The alien ships kept firing. Each blast killed more people. The peaceful farming colony was turning into a nightmare. Ben Parker, the colony administrator, was trying to coordinate evacuations from the town hall. He was an old man who had never seen war. His hands shook as he spoke into the communication system. "This is Haven's Edge to any human ship in range. We are under attack. I repeat, we are under attack. We need immediate assistance." The only answer was static. Through the smoke and fire, Jake saw them. Alien soldiers were walking through the streets. They were tall and covered in dark armor. Their faces were hidden behind masks. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. The aliens moved with purpose. They were not just destroying buildings, they were hunting people. Jake saw Mrs. Henderson running with her 3 children. An alien soldier raised his weapon. The purple beam cut through all 4 of them. They fell, together in the street. Rage filled Jake's heart. He pulled out his pistol and fired at the alien. The bullets bounced off its armor like raindrops. The creature turned toward him. "Run!" Jake yelled to Lisa. "Get to the transport pad." He kept firing his useless gun while Lisa helped the wounded toward safety. The alien walked toward Jake slowly. It was not afraid. It knew his weapon could not hurt it. Jake ran out of bullets. The alien raised its weapon. Jake closed his eyes and thought of his wife back on Earth, but the killing shot never came. Ben Parker had managed to get the colony's shields working. It was only basic protection against storms and radiation, but it made the alien weapons less accurate. The purple beam missed Jake by inches. "The transport ships," Ben called over the radio. "Everyone to the landing pad. We're leaving now." Jake ran through the burning streets. Bodies lay everywhere. People he had known for years. Farmers who grew food. Teachers who taught children. All dead. At the landing pad, 3 small transport ships were starting their engines. People pushed and crowded to get aboard. There was not enough room for everyone. Lisa was helping load the wounded when she saw something terrible. The aliens had found the elementary school's underground shelter. Children were hiding there with their teacher. "We have to help them," Lisa said. Jake looked at the shelter, then at the transport ships. If they waited, the ships might be destroyed. If they left, the children would die. "Take the wounded and go," Jake told Lisa. "I'll get the kids. You'll die. Maybe. But I can't leave them." Jake ran toward the school. Behind him, he heard the transport ships taking off. At least some people would survive. The alien soldiers were breaking into the shelter. Jake could hear children screaming. He found a back entrance and crawled inside. 20 children huddled with their teacher, Miss Sarah Johnson. She was young, maybe 25. She held the children and told them everything would be okay. But her eyes showed her fear. "This way," Jake whispered, quickly and quietly. They moved through the damaged building. Outside, the aliens were still hunting. Jake could see their dark shapes through the smoke. They almost made it. They were 50 feet from another transport ship when an alien soldier saw them. It raised its weapon. The purple beam struck Miss Johnson in the chest. She fell without a sound. The children screamed. Jake grabbed 2 kids under his arms and ran. Other adults who had stayed behind grabbed more children. They reached the transport ship as alien weapons fired all around them. The ship lifted off just as the landing pad exploded. Through the windows, Jake watched Haven's Edge burn. Everything was destroyed. The farms, the homes, the school, the hospital, all gone. Ben Parker sat in the pilot's seat with tears on his face. He was sending a message to Earth. "This is Ben Parker, administrator of Haven's Edge Colony. We have been attacked by unknown alien forces. Over 3,000 civilians are dead. The colony is destroyed. We are the only survivors." He paused and looked at the burning world below. "They killed our children. They killed everyone. Please remember us." In space above the ruined colony, the alien command ship received a message. The attack commander was pleased. Humans had proven to be weak and helpless, just as intelligence had predicted. The commander sent his own message. It would be broadcast to every human world. "I am General Vothkar of the Kethvar Empire. Your colony called Haven's Edge has been eliminated. Your species is weak. You cannot resist us. Submit to Kethvar rule or face the same fate." The message was sent across human space. Soon every human world would know what had happened at Haven's Edge. The Kethvar ships left the dead world behind. They were already planning their next attack. Humans would surrender quickly once they understood the futility of resistance. But the Kethvar had made a mistake. They thought humans were weak because they seemed peaceful. They did not understand that some sleeping things are more dangerous when awakened. The message from Haven's Edge reached Earth 3 days later. The images of the burning colony and murdered children were broadcast on every news channel. Humans across the galaxy saw what the Kethvar had done. Something ancient and terrible stirred in the human heart. Something that had been sleeping since humanity reached the stars. The dragons were beginning to wake. The news from Haven's Edge hit Earth like a hammer blow. President Kate Sullivan sat in the emergency meeting room deep under the White House. Around the long table sat the most powerful people in human space. Their faces were grim as they watched the recordings from the attack. On the wall screens, Haven's Edge burned. Children ran screaming through the streets. Alien soldiers walked calmly through the destruction, killing anyone they found. The images were horrible beyond words. "How many dead?" President Sullivan asked quietly. General Rick Hayes, head of the Human Defense Fleet, checked his tablet. 3,047 confirmed. Mostly civilians, farmers, teachers, children. His voice was flat and cold. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at the screens showing the burning colony. "What do we know about these aliens?" the president asked. Dr. Amy Roberts, a small woman with gray hair, opened her folder. She ran the government's alien research department. Most people did not even know her department existed. They call themselves the Kethvar Empire, she said. We've been watching them for years. They're warriors who conquer other species. They believe strength is the only thing that matters. Why did they attack us? Asked Secretary of Defense. John Miller. Because they think we're weak, Dr. Roberts replied. Our colonies have no military defenses. We trade instead of fight. To them, we look like easy targets. President Sullivan stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the peaceful city of Washington. People were going about their normal business. They had no idea that war was coming. What are our military capabilities? She asked. General Hayes smiled for the first time all day. It was not a nice smile. Madam President, may I suggest we discuss this in the secure room? They moved to a smaller room with no windows. The walls were covered in metal that blocked all signals. Only 6 people were allowed inside. General Hayes activated a holographic display. It showed star maps and ship designs that most of the cabinet had never seen before. For the past 30 years we've been preparing, Hayes began. Project Dragonfire has been building a fleet in secret. We have shipyards hidden in asteroid fields, weapons factories on dead moons, training bases in empty systems. The hologram showed massive ships under construction. They were sleek and deadly, covered in weapons and armor. How many ships? President Sullivan asked. 200 Dragon-class battleships, 500 Wolf-class destroyers, 1,000 Hawk-class fighters, all equipped with technology the Kethvar have never seen. Dr. Roberts added, We've been reverse engineering alien technology for decades. We have weapons that can cut through any known armor, shields that can stop planet killer, weapons, engines that make our ships faster than anything else in space. Why was this kept secret from Congress? Asked the Secretary of State. Because, said General Hayes, we hoped we'd never need it. Humans are peaceful by nature. We wanted to explore and trade, not fight wars. But we also remembered our history. Earth has seen too many wars. We knew that someday someone might mistake our peaceful nature for weakness. President Sullivan studied the ship designs. They looked beautiful and terrible at the same time. How long to activate the fleet? 6 months for full deployment. But we can start operations in 2 months with advance forces. The president nodded slowly. She thought about the children of Haven's Edge. She thought about the message the Kethvar had sent, demanding humanity's surrender. Do it, she said. Activate everything. I want every ship built, every weapon loaded, every soldier trained. Yes, ma'am, General Hayes replied. What are our rules of engagement? The president looked at the images of Haven's Edge still playing. On the screens, dead children lay in the streets. Burning homes filled the air with smoke. No rules, she said quietly. They wanted to see what humans do when threatened. Let's show them. Across human space, secret orders went out. On hidden, military bases, alarm sirens began to wail. Men and women who had been living normal lives suddenly became soldiers again. Danny Cole was fixing a roof when his phone buzzed. He looked at the message and his face went pale. After 10 years of civilian life, the Marine Corps was calling him back to active duty. His wife Nancy saw his expression. What is it? I have to go, Danny said. They need me. Nancy had been a Marine too. She understood. How long? I don't know. Maybe forever. They held each other on the roof as the sun set. Around the world, similar scenes were playing out. Families saying goodbye. Lovers making promises. Parents hugging children. The war machine of humanity was waking up. At the Titan Military Academy, Commandant Steve Rogers called his senior staff together. The academy was supposed to be a small training school for colonial security forces, but that was just a cover story. Gentlemen, ladies, the time has come, Rogers announced. Project Dragonfire is now active. We have 2 months to turn civilians into warriors. The staff nodded. They had been preparing for this day for years. Hidden deep under the academy were training facilities that could simulate any type of combat. Weapons ranges that could prepare soldiers for alien technology. War games that taught tactics no civilian had ever seen. Within hours, transport ships began arriving. They carried young men and women from across human space. Some were former military like Danny Cole. Others were civilians who had volunteered. After seeing the news from Haven's Edge, Captain Nina Ross met her new crew at the spaceport. She had been commanding cargo ships for 5 years, moving supplies between colonies. But that was also a cover story. She was actually a graduate of the secret Naval War College on Europa. "Welcome to the UHS Liberty," she told her crew. "You think you're here to crew a cargo ship? You're wrong. You're here to crew a warship, the most advanced warship humanity has ever built." She led them through corridors that looked normal from the outside, but hidden panels opened to reveal weapons, systems, and armor plating. The cargo holds contained enough firepower to destroy a small moon. "The Kethavar think we're weak merchant traders," Captain Ross explained. "Let them think that, right up until we show them what human merchants really carry in their holds." In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, massive constructions, sites came to life. For 30 years, automated systems had been building ships in secret. Now human workers arrived to finish the job. Chief Engineer Paul Grant supervised the final assembly of the flagship, UHS Dragon's Fury. The ship was 2 miles long and bristled with weapons. Its armor could withstand direct hits from antimatter bombs. Its engines could push it faster than light itself. "She's beautiful," said his assistant, Lieutenant Linda Hayes. "She's death incarnate," Grant replied. "And she's exactly what we need." Messages began flowing between the hidden military bases. Commanders who had been pretending to be farmers and factory workers revealed their true identities. Supply chains that looked like civilian commerce turned out to be military logistics networks. Dr. Amy Roberts visited one of the secret weapons laboratories. Scientists showed her devices that bent the laws of physics, weapons that could turn solid matter into energy, shields that could make entire fleets invisible. "When do we reveal these to the Kethavar?" asked Dr. Kevin Walsh, the lead weapons designer. "Not yet," Dr. Roberts replied. "Let them think they're fighting simple humans with primitive technology. The surprise will be more effective." Back on Earth, President Sullivan addressed the nation. She stood behind her desk in the Oval Office with the American flag behind her. But this speech would go to every human world. "My fellow humans," she began. 3 days ago, the peaceful colony of Haven's Edge was attacked without warning. Over 3,000 innocent people were murdered. Children, families, farmers who never hurt anyone. She paused and looked directly into the camera. "The attackers think we are weak. They think we will surrender out of fear. They are wrong. Humanity has always been peaceful, but we have never been weak. We have simply been sleeping." Around the human worlds, people watched their president with growing pride and anger. "To the Kethavar Empire I say this. You have awakened something you do not understand. You see farmers and merchants, but you do not see the warriors they can become. You see peaceful colonies, but you do not see the military power we have kept hidden." The president's voice grew harder. "You wanted to see what humans do when threatened. You killed our children to test our resolve. Now you will learn what dragons do when they wake up angry." The speech ended, but the preparations continued. Across human space, the greatest military force in the galaxy was preparing for war, and the Kethavar had no idea what was coming for them. 6 months after Haven's Edge burned, the first Dragon-class battleship emerged from the hidden shipyard in the asteroid belt. The UHS Dragon's Fury was a sight to behold. 2 miles of sleek metal and deadly weapons, it moved through space like a predator hunting prey. Captain Steve Murphy stood on the bridge and watched his crew work. These men and women had been farmers and shop owners just months ago. Now they operated the most advanced warship humanity had ever built. "Navigation. Set course for the outer rim," Murphy ordered. "It's time to introduce ourselves to the Kethavar." The ship's engines came to life with a low hum. The Dragon's Fury accelerated smoothly, faster than any Kethavar ship could match. Behind it, more Dragon-class ships followed. The human fleet was finally ready for war. In Kethavar space, General Vothkar reviewed reports from his scouts. The humans had gone quiet after his message. No diplomatic responses, no surrender offers, just silence. Perhaps they are preparing to submit, suggested his aide, Commander Zektar. Or perhaps they are afraid to respond, Vothkar replied. Either way, we will continue our expansion. Order the Fourth Fleet to attack the human colony at New Dallas. Make it as brutal as Haven's Edge. Fear is our greatest weapon. But Vothkar did not know that human ships were already watching his fleets, hidden by stealth technology that made them invisible. Wolf-class destroyers tracked every Kethvar movement. Commander Alex Turner crouched in the ventilation shaft of a Kethvar communications station. His team of 12 Special Forces soldiers had infiltrated the base 2 days ago. They moved like ghosts through the alien facility. Packages in place, whispered Sergeant Tony Clark over the radio. Explosives are set. Copy that, Turner replied. Begin data extraction. Corporal Sue Davis plugged her device into the alien computer system. Her fingers flew over the human interface as she downloaded everything the Kethvar knew about their military operations. Got it, she whispered. Ship locations, fleet movements, command structure, everything. Time to go, Turner said. Plant the virus and let's move. The virus was a special creation of human programmers. It would sit quietly in the Kethvar computers for weeks, then activate and destroy their communication networks at the worst possible moment. Turner's team slipped, away into the darkness. Behind them, the alien base continued its normal operations. The Kethvar guards never knew humans had been there. The data from the raid reached Admiral Rick Hayes within hours. He studied the intelligence reports with satisfaction. The Kethvar had 17 major fleets spread across their territory. They kept most of their ships near their core worlds, leaving their borders lightly defended. Classic mistake, Hayes told his staff. They think like conquerors, not defenders. They assume no one would dare attack them. Commander Nina Ross received her orders while her ship, the UHS Liberty, floated in empty space near the Kethvar border. Her crew had spent months training for this moment. All hands, this is the captain, she announced over the ship's intercom. We are about to begin our first combat mission. Remember your training, trust your equipment, and show these aliens what happens when they hurt innocent humans. The Liberty's engines engaged. The ship accelerated toward a Kethvar supply depot that supported 3 frontier fleets. According to intelligence, it was defended by only 2 patrol ships. The Kethvar guards at the depot were bored. Nothing ever happened in this quiet sector. They spent their time playing games and complaining about their assignment. Contact on sensors, reported the communications officer. Single ship approaching. Commander Grakval looked at his screens with mild interest. Identify it. Unknown design. Small merchant vessel by the look of it. Grakval laughed. Probably some trader who got lost. Send a warning shot across their bow, tell them to leave. The patrol ship fired a single plasma bolt that missed the approaching vessel by several hundred meters. It was meant to be a warning, not a killing shot. The human ship's response was immediate and devastating. The Liberty dropped its stealth field and revealed its true form. What had appeared to be a small cargo ship was actually a heavily armed destroyer. Weapon ports opened across its hull like angry eyes. Fire, Captain Ross ordered calmly. The Liberty's main guns spoke with voices of thunder. Beams of pure energy lanced out at the speed of light. The first Kethvar patrol ship simply vanished, turned to vapor by weapons more powerful than anything in their experience. The second patrol ship tried to run. It lasted 3 seconds longer than the first. Take us to the depot, Ross commanded. Time to send a message. The supply depot was a massive structure built into an asteroid. It held enough weapons and supplies to keep 3 fleets fighting for months. Hundreds of Kethvar workers scrambled to escape as the human ship approached. This is Captain Nina Ross of the Human Defense Fleet, she broadcast on all frequencies. By attacking our colony at Haven's Edge, you have declared war on humanity. This is our response. The Liberty opened fire on the depot. The ancient asteroid cracked and split under the assault. Explosions bloomed like flowers as supply caches detonated. Within minutes, months of Kethvar logistics were reduced to floating debris. But the Liberty was not alone. Across Kethvar space, similar attacks were happening simultaneously. Human ships appeared out of nowhere, struck their targets, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. The UHS Phantom, under Captain Roy Phillips, destroyed a Kethvar shipyard that was building new battleships. The facility had been defended by a full squadron of warships. None of them survived the engagement. The UHS Ghost, commanded by Captain Helen Burke, infiltrated a Kethvar fleet anchorage and planted antimatter charges on 6 capital ships. The explosions could be seen from orbit when they detonated. In his command center, General Vothkar watched the reports flood in. In a single day, humanity had struck at 17 different targets across his empire. The attacks were coordinated, precise, and devastatingly effective. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our scouts reported that humans have no military capability." His intelligence chief, Colonel Mockrin, reviewed the data with growing alarm. "Sir, these ships are using technology we have never seen. Their weapons are more powerful than our own. Their armor seems impervious to our attacks. And their stealth systems," added Commander Zektar. "Our sensors cannot detect them until they attack." Vothkar stared at the tactical display. Red marks showed the locations of the attacks. They formed a perfect circle around Kethvar space, hitting every major supply line and communication relay. "Send a message to all fleet commanders," he ordered. "Full defensive positions. Recall all ships to core systems." But it was too late. The human virus activated in the Kethvar communication networks. Command ships lost contact with their fleets. Supply depots could not coordinate with their bases. The entire Kethvar military machine began to break down. Captain Steve Murphy watched from the bridge of the Dragon's Fury as Kethvar ships tried desperately to regroup. Without their communication networks, they flew in confused circles, unable to coordinate their movements. "It's almost sad," commented his first officer, Lieutenant Commander Pete Adams. "They have no idea how to fight without their fancy technology." "Don't feel sorry for them," Murphy replied. "Remember Haven's Edge. Remember the children they murdered." The Dragon's Fury and its escorts moved deeper into Kethvar space. Their mission was to find and destroy the 4th Fleet before it could attack. New Dallas. Intelligence suggested the Kethvar ships were gathering at a staging area 3 systems away. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Kate Sullivan received reports of the first day's operations. Every target had been hit successfully. Not a single human ship had been lost. "Phase 1 is complete," reported Admiral Hayes. "The Kethvar supply network is in chaos. Their communication systems are failing. They're pulling back to defensive positions." "What about civilian casualties?" the President asked. "Minimal. We targeted only military installations and gave warnings, when possible. Our commanders have strict orders to avoid unnecessary killing." President Sullivan nodded. Unlike the Kethvar, humans still believed in honor during warfare. "Proceed to Phase 2, she ordered. "Let's show them what happens when they threaten our colonies." In space, the human fleet continued its advance. The dragons were fully awake now, and they were hungry for justice. The Kethvar had awakened a sleeping giant, and now they would face the consequences. The war was just beginning, but already the balance of power was shifting. Humanity had revealed its true nature, and the galaxy would never be the same. The war had been raging for 8 months. What started as surprise attacks had grown into full-scale warfare across 3 star systems. The Kethvar Empire was learning that humans were far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Captain Paul Grant stood on the bridge of the UHS Liberty, watching the enemy fleet form up ahead. 50 Kethvar warships hung in space like angry hornets, waiting for the humans to come closer. Behind them, the planet Morkun held 2 million alien civilians and a major weapons factory. "They're not running this time," observed Lieutenant Commander Jane Mitchell. "They want to make a stand." Grant nodded. The Kethvar had stopped retreating after losing 6 major battles. Their pride would not let them back down any further. "Signal the fleet," Grant ordered. "Begin the attack." The human ships moved forward in perfect formation. 20 Dragon-class battleships led the charge, followed by 60 Wolf-class destroyers. They had done this dance many times before. The Kethvar opened fire first. Purple energy beams lanced across space, striking the human shields with tremendous force. The shields held easily. Human technology was simply better. "Return fire," Grant commanded. The human weapons were different from anything the galaxy had seen before. Instead of energy beams, they fired projectiles that moved at incredible speed. The metal slugs punched through Kethvar armor like paper. The first enemy ship exploded in a ball of fire, then another, and another. "Sir," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a message from the planet. They want to surrender." Grant thought about Haven's Edge, about the children who had died there, about the message the Kethvar had sent demanding human submission. "Tell them no," he said quietly. "No surrender. No mercy." The battle continued, until every Kethvar ship was destroyed. The weapons factory on Morkun was reduced to rubble by orbital bombardment. 2 million aliens learned that day what happened when you threatened human colonies. But the humans were learning things too. On the planet Zelka Prime, Colonel Jane Mitchell led a ground assault against a Kethvar military base. Her Marines moved through the alien city with precision and deadly purpose. "Building secured," reported Sergeant Danny Cole over the radio. His squad had just cleared another enemy stronghold. The Kethvar soldiers inside were all dead. Mitchell walked through the captured command center. Her soldiers were gathering intelligence files and computer data. But she was looking at something else. "Colonel, you need to see this," called Private Sue Davis. She had found a hidden laboratory deep underground. Mitchell followed her down metal stairs into a sterile white room. What she saw there made her stomach turn. Glass tanks lined the walls filled with green liquid, and floating in the liquid were human bodies. "Are they alive?" Davis asked in a whisper. Dr. Kevin Walsh, the unit medic, checked his scanner. "Barely. They're being kept in some kind of suspended animation." Mitchell looked at the identification tags on the tanks. The names were familiar. These were colonists from Haven's Edge, people who were supposed to be dead. "They've been experimenting on them," Walsh said, his voice filled with disgust. "Testing human biology, trying to create biological weapons that only affect our species." Mitchell felt cold fury rise in her chest. The Kethvar had not just murdered civilians. They had taken prisoners and turned them into laboratory animals. "Can we save them?" she asked. Walsh shook his head sadly. "Too much damage. The kindest thing would be to let them die peacefully." Mitchell made the hardest decision of her military career. One by one, she turned off the machines keeping the Haven's Edge survivors alive. They died quietly, finally free from their torment. "Send this data to Earth immediately," she ordered. "Every human in the galaxy needs to see what these monsters have done." The images from Zelka Prime reached Earth within days. President Kate Sullivan sat in the emergency meeting room again, but this time her face showed cold anger instead of shock. "They tortured our people," she said quietly. "They kept them alive to experiment on them like animals." Admiral Rick Hayes had seen many horrible things in his military career, but the laboratory on Zelka Prime was beyond anything he had imagined. "Madam President, I request permission to remove all restrictions on our military operations." "What are you asking for, Admiral?" "Total war. No limits. No mercy. We end this species once and for all." President Sullivan thought about the children of Haven's Edge, about the colonists who had suffered in alien laboratories, about the message the Kethvar had sent threatening all of humanity. "Granted," she said. "Show them what dragons do when they are truly angry." The order went out to every human ship in space. No more prisoners, no more mercy. The Kethvar had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Meanwhile, other alien species were watching the war with growing amazement. The Zilani Confederacy had fought the Kethvar for decades and never won a single major battle. Now humans were destroying entire Kethvar fleets with ease. Ambassador Kreechaw of the Zilani sent a secret message to Earth. Her people wanted to help the humans. They offered supplies, safe harbors, and intelligence about Kethvar weaknesses. "Why should we trust you?" asked Secretary of State Linda Hayes during a secure video call. "Because the Kethvar enslaved our colonies for 50 years, Kreechaw replied. "Because they treat other species like animals. Because you are the first people strong enough to stop them." Soon other species joined the secret alliance. The Morden Republic provided fuel and repair facilities. The Talic Union shared star charts of Kethavar space. Even some Kethavar subject species began to rebel, hoping for human liberation. Captain Roy Phillips led a squadron of human ships to the Kethavar slave world of Drakakon. The planet held millions of aliens who had been conquered and forced to work in mines and factories. "This is Captain Phillips of the Human Defense Fleet," he broadcast to the planet. "We are here to liberate you from Kethavar rule. All civilians should move to safe areas immediately." The planetary defense fleet tried to stop the humans. 30 Kethavar ships against 6 human destroyers. It was not a fair fight. The human ships had weapons that could turn enemy hulls into molten metal. Within hours, the orbital defenses were gone. Human marines landed on the planet and began freeing the slave camps. The alien workers looked at their human liberators with wonder and gratitude, but the Kethavar were not finished. General Vothkar had one last plan. He would gather his remaining fleets at the homeworld of Vorthak and make a final stand. If humans wanted to end the Kethavar Empire, they would have to come to the heart of Kethavar space. "Let them come," he told his officers. "We will show them that cornered warriors fight the hardest." Vothkar had 200 ships left from his once mighty empire. The orbital defenses of Vorthak were the strongest in Kethavar space. Millions of soldiers waited on the planet's surface. If the humans wanted to finish this war, they would pay a terrible price. But humans had been preparing for this moment. Admiral Hayes assembled the largest fleet in human history. Every Dragon-class battleship, every Wolf-class destroyer, every Hawk-class fighter, over 800 ships in total. "This is it," Hayes told his captains over the secure communications network. "The final battle. When we are done here, the Kethavar Empire will exist only in history books." Captain Steve Murphy prepared his ship, the Dragon's Fury, for the assault on Vorthak. His crew worked with quiet efficiency. They had become experts at warfare over the past months. "Sir," called his communications officer, "we're receiving a message from the Kethavar homeworld." "Put it on screen." General Vothkar appeared on the main display. He looked older than he had 8 months ago. The war had aged him badly. "Human commander," he said, "I offer you one final chance. Withdraw your fleets, and we will discuss terms of peace." Murphy smiled coldly. "General Vothkar, I have a message for you from the children of Haven's Edge. No terms, no peace, no mercy." The transmission ended. Murphy turned to his crew. "All ships, this is Dragon's Fury. Begin the final assault. Let's finish what they started." The human fleet moved toward Vorthak like an unstoppable tide. The dragons were coming home to roost, and nothing in the galaxy could stop them now. The human fleet arrived at Vorthak like a storm of steel and fire. 800 ships formed up in perfect battle formation around the Kethavar homeworld. The planet hung in space before them, dark and menacing, surrounded by massive orbital defense platforms. Admiral Rick Hayes stood on the bridge of the flagship UHS Dragon's Wrath. Through the viewports he could see the enemy defenses, hundreds of weapon platforms, energy shields that could stop most attacks, defensive fleets positioned at strategic points. "Sir," reported Captain Steve Murphy, "enemy fleet strength is confirmed at 200 ships. Orbital defenses are at maximum power." Hayes nodded. The Kethavar had turned their homeworld into the strongest fortress in the galaxy, but they had never faced human military doctrine. "Signal all ships," Hayes ordered. "Begin Operation Dragonfire." The first wave of human ships moved forward. These were not the main battleships but smaller Wolf-class destroyers equipped with special weapons. The Kethavar defense fleet moved to intercept them. General Vothkar watched from his command bunker deep under the planet's surface. His tactical displays showed the human ships approaching. They seemed to be attacking in small groups, not using their full strength. "Foolish humans," he muttered. "They think they can take our homeworld with these weak attacks." But the human ships were not making weak attacks. They were deploying something the Kethavar had never seen before. Special missiles that did not explode when they hit their targets. Instead, they attached themselves to enemy ships like metal parasites. "What are those devices?" asked Commander Zektar. "Unknown," replied the sensor operator. They appear to be some kind of boarding pod. The truth was worse than that. The devices were electronic warfare pods that hacked into Kethvar computer systems. Within minutes, enemy ships began turning their weapons on each other. The Kethvar defense fleet destroyed itself in confusion and chaos. "Impossible," Vothkar whispered. "How are they controlling our ships?" Captain Paul Grant led the second wave of human ships toward the orbital defense platforms. These massive structures had enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. But humans had studied Kethvar technology for months. "Target their power cores," Grant ordered. "Fire when ready." Human weapons had evolved during the war. Instead of simple energy beams, they now fired projectiles that could punch through any known armor. The orbital platforms began exploding one by one, their massive hulks falling toward the planet like burning meteors. On the planet's surface, millions of Kethvar civilians watched their defenses crumble. Some tried to flee to underground shelters. Others simply stood in the streets, paralyzed by fear. Colonel Jane Mitchell led the first wave of human Marines toward the planet. Her assault ships dropped through the atmosphere like falling stars. Behind her came 10,000 of humanity's finest soldiers. "Remember Haven's Edge," she told her troops over the radio. "Remember what they did to our people." The Kethvar ground forces tried to resist, but human technology was overwhelming. Powered armor that could stop any weapon, vehicles that moved faster than Kethvar eyes could follow, weapons that could level city blocks. Major Tim Jackson and his battalion fought their way through the capital city. The Kethvar soldiers were brave, but they were fighting with weapons that were decades behind human technology. "Sir," called Sergeant Danny Cole, "we've reached the government district. The enemy is retreating to the main command bunker." Jackson nodded. Intelligence had located General Vothkar's headquarters deep underground. It was time to end this war face to face. "Plant the charges," Jackson ordered. "We're going down to meet the general." The explosions opened a hole in the ground that led to the underground complex. Human soldiers rappelled down into the darkness, their armor lights cutting through the gloom. Deep in his bunker, General Vothkar made his final preparations. He had sent his family away months ago. Now he waited alone with his most loyal officers. If he was going to die, he would die fighting. "Sir," reported his aide, "the humans have breached the outer defenses. They will be here within the hour." Vothkar looked at his reflection in a dark computer screen. 8 months ago, he had been the conqueror of Haven's Edge. Now he was a broken old alien waiting for death. "I underestimated them," he said quietly. "I thought they were weak because they seemed peaceful. I was wrong." Colonel Pete Adams found the general in his personal office. Vothkar was sitting behind his desk, still wearing his military uniform. His weapon lay on the desk in front of him within easy reach. "General Vothkar," Adams said, "I am Colonel Pete Adams of the Human Defense Forces. You are under arrest for war crimes." Vothkar looked up at the human soldier. Even through the alien's facial features, Adams could see the defeat in his eyes. "War crimes?" Vothkar laughed bitterly. "I was a soldier following orders. We attacked your colony to test your strength." "You murdered children," Adams replied coldly. "You tortured prisoners. You experimented on innocent people like they were animals. And what are you doing to my people now?" Vothkar asked. "You are destroying our cities, killing our soldiers. How are you different?" Adams thought about the laboratory on Zelka Prime, about the human prisoners floating in alien tanks, about the children of Haven's Edge who had died screaming. "The difference," Adams said, "is that we are giving you a choice. Surrender and live. Keep fighting and die." Vothkar reached for his weapon. Adams was faster. The human soldier's rifle spoke once, and the architect of Haven's Edge fell dead at his desk. Above ground, the battle for Vorthak was ending. The last Kethvar resistance crumbled as human forces secured the capital city. Major Lisa Stone raised the human flag over the government building as Kethvar civilians watched in silence. Captain Nina Ross received the surrender of the remaining Kethvar fleet commanders. These aliens had been proud warriors just hours ago. Now they knelt before human officers begging for mercy. "The Kethvar Empire officially surrenders," announced Admiral Hayes from the bridge of his flagship. "All military forces will lay down. their weapons immediately. President Kate Sullivan received the news on Earth 12 hours later. The war was over. Humanity had won complete victory. The Cathvar Empire no longer existed. "What are our casualties?" she asked Admiral Hayes over the secure communication link. "Remarkably light, Madam President, less than 500 killed in the final battle. Our technology and tactics proved superior in every engagement." Sullivan nodded. Human military science had proven itself against a galactic empire. But she took no joy in the victory. Too many innocent people had died before the war ended. "What do we do with the Cathvar survivors?" she asked. "They have requested to become a protectorate under human authority. Their government has completely collapsed. Without our help, their civilization will fall apart." President Sullivan thought carefully about her answer. Humanity could be conquerors now, ruling over alien species like the Cathvar had done. But that was not the human way. "We will help them rebuild," she decided. "But as equals, not as slaves. We will teach them that strength comes from protecting others, not from conquering them." In the months that followed, human administrators worked to rebuild Cathvar society. Former soldiers became farmers and teachers. Weapons factories were converted to produce medical supplies and farming equipment. Dr. Amy Roberts established schools where young Cathvar learned human values of peace and cooperation. The species that had once glorified warfare began to discover the benefits of peaceful civilization. Other alien species watched these developments with amazement. The humans had won a complete military victory, but instead of enslaving their enemies, they were helping them become better people. Ambassador Creechaw of the Zelani Confederacy met with President Sullivan on Earth. "Your species is remarkable," she said. "In our history, conquerors have always enslaved the conquered. You are teaching them to be free." "That is what dragons do," Sullivan replied. "We protect those who cannot protect themselves, even former enemies who have learned from their mistakes." The war was over, but its effects would be felt for generations. Humanity had revealed itself as the dominant military power in the galaxy. More importantly, they had shown that true strength came from protecting others, not from destroying them. The children of Haven's Edge were finally at peace. Their sacrifice had awakened the dragons, and the dragons had brought justice to the galaxy. Humanity would never again be seen as weak or helpless. The stars belonged to the dragons now, and they would guard them well.